Hi. Last time we talked about how to take our drawings and to fill up extra space. So we talked about adding extra objects. I still have a little bit of extra space here. I need to think about adding one more object. We talked about developing the value. So here I developed the value on the ice cream bowl and on the sauce, on the dirt inside the planter, the seeds, and over here here on my my donut and my cinnamon roll, and I added some pattern here, which I may need to darken those values as well. So that was last time. Today we really want to focus on pulling our design together, and so there are a couple of ways we can do that. One way is by pulling up this pattern sheet and adding a pattern that we might create. If we choose to add a pattern, we're going to start it with pencil and then add our ink. We might decide to use a texture. So in this drawing, I've added some wood grain with pencil. We've done wood grain before. And I took a pattern from the pattern sheet, this kind of spiral pattern here with varying sizes of spirals. And if I'm satisfied with those, then I will go ahead and ink those. Another option is, of course, to add objects. For example, I have several things with food. I have the watermelon, I have a donut, so maybe I would add a plate or a napkin. Over here by my strawberries, I might add a plate. Up here by my Eiffel Tower and my gymnast, I might or dancer, I might add clouds. Okay, here by my swimmer, I added ripples in the water. Sometimes if we're diving or swimming, we have splashes. So think about things you could add that might go with your subject, and then add those in pencil. And then if you're happy with them, start just like we did with our drawing images, and that is, we will start with the lines first and go over the lines, and then we'll come back and add more value and texture. And because we have the watercolor background, it's difficult to see how the pencil lines are going to play with our drawing images that we've already added and developed in the ink. So after we do the lines, we can come back and see where we need to add value. So even though I'm starting with the lines, I know that in the wood grain, I'm going to have to come back and add some shading, much like I did here with the shovel handle, which has kind of a wood grain, and then it also has shading added over the top. Now I still haven't decided how I'm going to show the curve of a spade on the inside, so I'll have to think about that. And again, I will add that in pencil or work it out on scratch paper before I add it to my drawing. Remember, we have to keep our erasing to a minimum so we don't spoil the watercolor background, or I should say, and we don't mess up the surface of the paper. Okay, now, one of the things that's going to be important as we're developing a pattern or a texture is that we come back and look at the drawing, and I've taken this wood grain texture down to the tent, but I've also carried it over behind the apple. Okay, remember, we're continuing our overlapping. So even though I've looked at it once, it's going to be important that I see how the pattern and or texture is going to play through and connect with my other images. Now, it's not necessary that we cover up all of the watercolor. So I'm not trying to make everything black or solid, but I need to see how the pattern is translated through here. Okay, all right, so we're going to leave that for a moment, and let's come down here by the ice cream cone. And I have not inked the ice cream cone yet, so I have not decided what I'm going to do with that texture, but it was important and necessary to do some of this area down here with the pattern. And again, if I'm not sure how it's going to work out, two things. One, I try it in pencil first, or I do it in scratch paper. And another thing that I can do is after I make a few marks, I can hold it from a distance and see how it's working out. Okay. Now on this pattern with the spiral, I'm going to come in and do some shading. On this sheet, it's pretty black, but maybe I won't want to make it quite so black. So I might shade it with pencil instead of in these in-between spaces. So I might come in and if I shade it with pencil in the in-between spaces, then rather than coloring it solid black, I might use cross-hatching. On this pattern on the handout, it's filled in solid, but I might use lines to do that as well. So our images and our background are going to evolve. Our drawing is going to evolve. And so the purpose of adding the texture and adding the pattern is to connect the images, to unify our drawing. I could use like wallpaper and make the same pattern or the same texture behind all of the objects, but that would not be very interesting. So I want to unify things, but also create variety. What will be important is that when you're choosing your texture and your pattern, you look at the space where things are. We wouldn't want to take a ruler and divide our paper into 4. Maybe I will have just this section be the wood grain. Maybe I will have the spirals here. Maybe they'll fade out and be like little pebbles and come over here towards my seed packet. Okay? So you have to be sensitive and be aware of your drawing and how it's developing. Here on the ice cream cone, I've left the sauce light and I've shaded and added texture to the ice cream. I won't know if that's enough development of value and texture until I decide what I'm doing with the cone, and then I can come back and revisit that as well. Okay, so that will be enough to get you started. This drawing is due on Thursday of this week, and then we'll be moving into watercolor.